Well, think about your perfect playground. Perhaps it was the monkey bars that were a little too high but gave you the biggest thrill when you were a kid, or maybe that giant slide that made you squeal as you flew to the bottom. Think about your own children right now and what they love. Is it a zip line, a climbing wall, or a mini trampoline? Well, today we're talking about school playgrounds. A new provincial grant was announced that will match up to $50,000. We know many of you are in the midst of fundraising, so give us a call today and tell us what it takes to get new playground equipment at your school and why it's needed. We also want to hear what makes a great playground. So give us a call, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Alana Ross is the province's Parks, Culture and Sports Minister, and she is in our Regina studio. Minister, welcome to Blue Sky.
Thank you, Alicia. It's a pleasure to join you here today.
And then also in our Regina studio is Todd Schaefer, CEO of Sask Parks and Recreation Association. His team will be helping manage the grant applications and funds. And so, Todd, welcome to you as well.
Thank you for having me.
Minister, I want to start with you. My first question is just sort of the basics. Why isn't playground equipment funded by the divisions or with provincial dollars in the first place?
This grant falls under our parks portfolio. The province funds the capital project for the schools for the building itself, and the playground equipment is through volunteer organizations, family organizations who have always raised the funds in order to build these playgrounds. And so this grant, it's a perfect fit under parks for the recreational part, and it's also accessible beyond the school year and the school day. The expectation is the playgrounds are going to be accessible 365 days of the year to the communities that they are located in.
What, though, gave the province the impression that the province needed to step up and provide these funds?
Well, as I had said, like community volunteer groups, parent groups work very, very hard to do fundraising for these projects. And in discussions with parents and these parent groups and families, community organizations, it's challenging. It's getting more challenging to fundraise. And we saw this as a perfect opportunity to be able to support families and help provide these recreational opportunities for our children and for our families, because that's who it's for. It's bigger than the schools. It's for the children and for the families in our communities.
Why are parent groups finding it harder to fundraise right now? What's going on that's making it harder to come up with that money?
Well, there's a lot of different organizations seeking donations in the communities, and we didn't go into specifics when we had these discussions. We were just told that it takes longer and it's getting more difficult to fundraise. So, as I said, we saw this as the perfect opportunity to be able to support our families and our children.
How long has it been the case that it's up to parents and to communities to fundraise this money? You know, I was walking into studio and one of my colleagues found out about the show, and his children would be around my age, and he recalled, fundraising for their playground many years ago. So how long has that been the case that it's up to parents and to communities to fundraise the money for the equipment?
Well, Alicia, I don't have that historical data. I'm not sure if Trevor would have that at all. It's something we could potentially find out for you, but that predates our government. So,
do you know the answer to that?
No, I'm not familiar with what the history around the funding for school playground programs has been. My experience has typically been within municipalities, and it's often a combination of both finding grants from other sources as well as then municipal contributions towards those types of infrastructure facilities. So,
Minister Ross, why don't you explain how the grant will work? A lot of parents are curious about this.
Okay, so what the grant is, it's up to $50,000 of matched funding for per year, and it's scheduled to be in effect for the next 4 years. That's $3.75 million per year is budgeted for the playground granting. And we have an application program that we work with Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association will be our partners in administering this program, and that the associations apply to be for the grant.
The parent associations?
Yes, or the volunteer associations.
And then, Todd, that's where you come in. So how will it work from your perspective?
Yeah, so once basically there's a few steps that school community councils or parent groups would have to go through in order to be able to start the process of applying for a grant. To start with, make sure that there is one established within that community or associated with that school. So although there's a lot of them throughout the province, there may be a few that don't have them established. And so it would be making sure that you've got a formal organization established. Start to do some of that fundraising for the matching funds for the grant. And then begin some of the planning process tied to that. So some of the design, they don't have to be in fully formed, but there needs to be some of that design at the outset. And then of course, making sure that there's school support for the addition of that play structure onto their site. And then once they have all of those things in place, then they just have to go onto our website, click onto the application button that takes you to our portal for the grant application submission, and then follow all the steps that are laid out at that point. Make sure they're gathering all of the information that they require to submit, and then once all the information is submitted, they just have to click the submit application button, and then we review to make sure all the eligibility and details are set.
Okay, so it's been open a few days now, I think, right? So just curious what the response has been so far, Todd.
Yeah, so it's been open for about a week now, and we've got a total of 15 applications that have already been started, and so not fully flushed out yet, but 15 applications that have been started online for about close to $800,000 has been the requests, and then there's an additional approximately 25 groups that have reached out to us as well, looking for additional information as they prepare their submissions and their application.
Okay, so if you applied, we'd like to hear from you today. We'd like to know about just what it takes to get new school ground equipment or new playground equipment at your school. A lot of people are in the process. A lot of people have just finished, and it can take a lot. So tell us your stories today, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. What did you do? What difference would a grant like this make? Again, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Minister Ross, just what's your sense of the appetite for this grant? We heard how many applications Todd has received so far. What's your sense of the need?
Well, there's a lot of excitements out there regarding this grant. I've heard from volunteer groups, I've heard from parents, I've heard from schools, and people are very, very excited about this grant because it's not only new equipment. It can be used to add to existing equipment, to refurbish old equipment. So it really does provide opportunities for groups to be able to further enhance these playgrounds in the communities. And as I said before, it's wonderful for children. We all know how important play is for children in their development, and to be able to play outdoors on new exciting equipment, it's wonderful for the children.
What is the state of a lot of the playgrounds right now? If they were built many years ago, how often are there safety concerns? Minister Ross, do you know?
Todd may be better to answer that question. I know new equipment has all been needs to be CSA approved. I know that we've been seeing new equipment popping up around. I know in my community, we've seen a number of new playgrounds that have been built over the years, but there is great excitement to be able to enhance the existing playgrounds as well. I don't know if Todd, any additional information?
What's your sense of the state of some of the playgrounds on school grounds across Saskatchewan?
Yeah, I don't know that there's any formal data that tells us what the state of those playgrounds are, whether those are on school or on community facilities. But I know that there are, as Minister Ross mentioned, there are a number of playground inspectors that get certified every year through the Canadian Playground Safety Institute, and their job is then assessing what the state of those playgrounds are on a regular basis, and so definitely. When it comes to infrastructure of any kind, there's a variety that are built at a variety of different times throughout history. And so the ones that were built 50 years ago are definitely seeing their age at this point, and there's ones that have been built more recently. So I don't have the specific numbers, but certainly there is an opportunity for us to see just like any other aging infrastructure, some chance to be able to see where the opportunities are to upgrade.
Minister, would that be data that's worth gathering so that you actually have a clear picture of which schools have solid, good playground equipment and those who don't? Because right now it's parent-driven, it's community-driven.
It is, and yes, it is parent-driven. And that is the reason that we actually opened this program up. It was because of, feedback that we were receiving from the parents when we did seek that out. In terms of data collection, we rely very specifically on, because it's driven by these organizations, that they inform us of the need. And we also know, we've announced 21 new schools. Very recently, we've had, with the influx in population growth, we know that there are a number of new schools who are requiring new playgrounds and support as well. And we want to create this opportunity for these organizations to apply for this, for any school that requires it within our province.
I want to ask you how you might plan to avoid any potential inequities. But I want to establish, Todd, just what it costs to install new playground equipment. I know it would vary, but we're talking about some pretty big price tags.
There can be, yeah. I don't have the price sheet in front of me right now, but certainly you can go as small as you want or as large as you want, depending on what the scope of your budget is and what the desires of that community or that school happen to be. I think the range could be anywhere from a $5,000 contribution up to in the $300,000 or $400,000 range has been the numbers that have been floated around. So there's definitely a wide scope of possibilities within that. And if I can just build on the comments earlier around the data as well, part of this project as well is going to be an opportunity for us to collect some of that data, especially as the applications come in, which is very similar to what we've done with the Community Rank Affordability Grant over the past number of years as well, as gathering that data about what the state of recreation infrastructure is in the province.
So, Minister, how will you ensure that there aren't inequities through this process? Because some of the complaints that can come up is that schools with very active parent councils, schools with families that make more money are more able to fundraise and get that new playground equipment. What about the communities where the money coming in for families is just not as much? How will you address that?
Well, as I had said, Leisha, the grant is up to $50,000 per year. It's over the next 4 years. And once submitted, it's arm's length from government. The SPSA, our partners in this, will be looking at the grants and making the decisions as to who are the recipients of the grants for this year. And as Todd had mentioned, grants can be applied for each of the next 4 years. But
there has to be a fair bit of organizing accomplished before they even get to that point where they're applying for a grant. And some school communities may not have that ability to organize in that way.
Yes, and all we that's why we have this over the next 4 years, and we encourage, as Todd said, for communities to seek out the support they require. There may be donors within the community who are able to help support them in that, and to be able to get that guidance, and to be able to contact the SPRA to be able to get information on how to go about accessing the grant program and what they need to do in order to be eligible for this grant.
Okay, we just got an email from Darla in Gravelburg who writes, I'm the chair of a local school community council. After reading the details of the school playground equipment grant, I'm disappointed with its limitations. What our playground desperately needs is a shade structure and fencing, neither of which are eligible. I'm also confused as to why the grant is being distributed on a first-come, first-served basis rather than by need or merit of application. Lastly, please ask again why playgrounds are not funded by the Ministry of Education. I struggle to understand how outdoor spaces aren't considered an important educational space. Minister, I want to put that to you again. It's a fair question for your government. I know this may not be your portfolio, but how would you respond to that?
Well, as I had said before, Alicia, schools operate do not operate 365 days of the year, and they're only accessible for students. The purpose of this granting and the purpose of the playgrounds is we want these spaces to be utilized, and they will benefit the entire community. And it is important that they are accessible to all children. So any publicly funded school has the ability to apply for this, the associations through this granting program.
Did you want to take a moment to just address some of the limitations that Darla points out? And Todd, feel free to jump in, but she mentioned that they need a shade structure and fencing, and those aren't eligible. Minister, how did you come up with what is, or Todd, how did you come up with what is eligible?
It was a difficult challenge to come up with what's eligible for sure, because the scope of these play structures can be so wide and the demand so high, and even just in mentioning some of the numbers that were thrown around as far as the costs of the infrastructure and the play structures themselves, we made the decision to go this year with a limited scope of what was going to be eligible, but certainly are looking forward to having feedback like the information from Darla on what is needed as it goes forward. I think the idea of making sure that we're investing in the structures that get kids playing and participating on those on that infrastructure is primarily important, and then looking at what the opportunities are in the future, because there's no doubt that when it comes to play structures and playground areas, there's a variety of things that could be added on, whether that be fencing, benches. There's a number of things that we did think about and consider early on, but felt like based on the dollars that were available at this point, that we really wanted to focus on just the infrastructure or the play structure itself.
Minister, can you just clarify or elaborate who can apply for this? So any publicly funded school, that would include schools on First Nations, independent schools who receive public money. Just elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's correct, Leisha. Just anyone, all publicly funded schools, like public schools, separate schools, francophone schools, alternative independent schools that receive public funding, associate schools, historical high schools, qualified independent schools, certified independent schools, the First Nations communities, as you mentioned. So the scope is very wide. We're trying to receive, and this is publicly funded dollars, so it's important that the schools are receiving public money.
Minister, before we switch gears slightly, I just have one more question to ask you regarding what you've learned through this process about the importance of play, and what do you think makes a good play structure?
Well, play is so important. Like getting kids outdoors or children outdoors, it is so wonderful. So we all know the benefits to health and well-being, that children being able to get out and play and, to be active. Not only does it help them in their learning, it helps them in their growth, their development. They learn the social skills that they will need moving forward. It just has so many benefits for children. And, and the fact that it's going to be open, to the community to access as well, I think it just provides that opportunity to help, for the health of families, for the health of children. It's very important.
Well, I'm glad we got to tell people about it today. And Minister, I appreciate the fact that you were willing to take my questions. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you.
That is Minister Alana Ross, the province's Parks, Culture and Sports Minister. We're going to continue the conversation. I'm sure many of you have thoughts. If you're in the middle of fundraising, give us a call today, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. And of course, at the heart of this is about kids playing. So we'd like to hear what you think makes a good playground, what the state of your current school playground is, and what improvements you'd like to see. So again, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. We do still have Todd Schaefer with us, the CEO of Sask Parks Recreation and Association. Todd, you've touched on this a bit, but I want to know more about what you think makes a good playground.
I think the key elements of a good playground is that it's safe, that it's close to where people would use it. So proximity is important, and that it's appealing, and that it's something that is a bit of a beacon for kids. I know that when my kids were small, there was regular trips to the playgrounds in our area, and it was never always back to the same one. It was always going to different ones where they could see and try different apparatus and different structures that existed.
And what do you see as the benefits for the wider community? When a school gets a new play structure, what does that mean for the whole neighborhood?
Yeah, it's certainly important for the school themselves within those school hours, absolutely. But that idea of, we talk about any recreational infrastructure as being community hubs or places for connection, and I think that this playground is no different. And so the opportunity for families within neighborhoods, within communities to be able to get together, to be able to spend time, connect with one another, feel that sense of belonging that we know exists in lots of places in Saskatchewan, this just helps foster that.
Well, if you are in the middle of fundraising for a school playground, you might find yourself talking with Jamie Beaton. She is with Madeira Playscapes in Moose Jaw. She helps work through the design process with you. Her team will even help you figure out a bit of the fundraising piece. And then often her husband leads a crew to install the new equipment. So Jamie knows her stuff. I'd like to say a big welcome to you. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Leach. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, so I just want to get the big question out of the way, the cost of some of these structures. What can they sometimes be?
The sky's the limit when it comes to designing and installing a playground. It can be adding a simple climber or spinner for, those, couple $3,000-$4,000, or you can go as big as $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. It's the sky's the limit. The potential is there for really anything.
And how often do people come to you with big goals and they're like, how are we ever going to fundraise this amount of money? You must hear many stories from people who are in the midst of it.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of the groups that I work with, the fundraising efforts are ongoing. There's groups that I've worked with where they've been raising for 3, 4, 5 years. And then, their children who are at that school are moving on to a new school, and they might not be able to use the equipment that they've worked so hard to raise for. So it's an ongoing effort. The parent groups, funding and donations from the communities. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot.
And do you get the question, why is it so expensive?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I think, parent groups talk with other parent groups throughout their communities. And if, one school has done an upgrade, or maybe it's a regional park that's done something that a parent was part of during the installation process or the fundraising process, there's, that talk between everybody in those communities. So I think they have a little bit of an idea why it can be so expensive. But then there's also those, background stories. You have to think of the raw material coming in, and then that material having to be cut and welded and then powder coated. And then it has to, go through its CSA compliance, make sure everything's done to code. And then there's packaging, shipping, and installation. All of those individual pieces do add up over time.
And where are we at with making sure that playgrounds are inclusive spaces, that they're accessible for people of all different types of abilities? Talk to us about that.
So I would say probably 95% of the playground designs that I work with currently are geared towards inclusivity and accessibility. So things like having accessible routes throughout the play space itself. So, different pathways that are easy to maneuver for those individuals who potentially have a mobility device. Even think of it as, parents who are walking with their children, grandparents, caregivers, anyone who's going to be on that play space. You want to have accessible routes for access to all of the different pieces of equipment. You want, ground level, easily accessible pieces of equipment, sensory rich, tactile, different things like that, things that can help with, the developmental and the ability of all of those individuals of all abilities. Mm-hmm. Even calm zones, things like that, places where, children who might need to take a moment to just take a break, get out of that kind of, not sensory rich, but that overload where they just need to take a little moment to self-soothe, to self-regulate.
Yeah. I've got an email here from Joan, and Todd, this one is probably better for you. So Joan writes, wondering if any consideration is being given to sensory and physical accessibility in the grant approvals. I know SPRA has good knowledge and resources in this area. So can you speak to that a bit, Todd?
The applications that come in are going to be dependent on the needs of the community and the needs of the school themselves, right? And so right now, the eligible infrastructure and the structures themselves that are eligible all cover any of those types of considerations for a variety of different opportunities. So we are aware of that. We've got some great connections both in Saskatchewan as well as across the country to help us with decision making leading up to this grant, and definitely that's been a consideration.
Okay, here's another email for you, Todd. Carmen writes, hi, as a parent and member of the outdoor education community, I was disappointed that the playground grant does not include shade structures or green infrastructure, like trees and shrubs. There is a disconnect between Saskatchewan curriculum, which encourages nature-based learning, and an expectation that parents will fundraise to green the schoolyard or plant trees. Play structures are fun, but shouldn't we be talking about access to shade and climate-resilient playgrounds? Some interesting points there from Carmen. Todd, what would you say to that?
I love those comments and questions. I think that's fantastic. I think similar to what I mentioned earlier, like the realities of we have a limited amount of dollars to be able to invest this year, and we're going forward with that within this first iteration. But definitely those kinds of comments and feedback that we would get from folks out in communities is going to help in future iterations of this grant program. And so any information that we gather, I know that we had lots of dialogue around the possibilities, and we're huge proponents of natural spaces, and definitely that was a consideration early on, but ultimately we decided we needed to draw a line somewhere for this first year, and so that's where the line's been drawn for year one, but we'll see what happens in future years.
And then Jamie, if a parent or community member came to you and said, this is a priority of ours as a neighborhood, we want trees for our kids, we want a play structure, we want it shaded, but we also want green space, how might you navigate that with them?
When it comes to the green spaces, I'm not so much a green thumb myself. So, I can not so much help there. But when it comes to the shade aspect of things, adding a roof structure to some of the platforms that will help with some of those issues. There's lots of different types of roofs you can add. There are the options, for some to do a shade sail on some structures. So there is an ability to, within the design process, look at adding those components themselves.
And Jamie, how do you balance the need for safety and safe play and the desire for kids to play and be risky? It's like a constant struggle for me as a parent. And, I think a lot of people from my generation, perhaps yours, Jamie.
Yeah.
We like to opine about the good old days when things, we were sliding down hot slides and falling off things. And so how in your role, how do you balance those things?
So it often begins with the age-appropriate play that we're looking to design for. Is it for a preschool? Is it for lower elementary? Is it for upper elementary? And then you look at the complexity and the challenge within the components that we're going to use in the design. So, for example, if it's an upper elementary, kind of structure that a community is trying to raise funds for, we can look at doing things, an agility style or a circuit style course, something that kind of sparks that endless activity. There's that interconnected clambering, hanging, balancing, all of those components. Then obviously designing them with more of a challenge or a challenging component versus something that would be, a little easier for those younger users. So,
do people say that to you though, Jamie, that they don't want it to be too safe to the point where it feels boring? Like, do people say that to you or talk to you about that?
I think they leave that up to myself and Blue Imp to take into consideration when we're doing those designs. Obviously, all of our playground products conform and comply with the current CSA standards. So safety is of utmost importance to both, myself at Madera and Blue Imp. So that's always right there in the forefront to begin with.
And Blue Imp is the umbrella company. Just remind us.
Yes. So Madera Playscapes, we are the Saskatchewan representation for Blue Imp Playgrounds, who are they're a playground manufacturer based out of Medicine Hat, fully Canadian, 108 years old. So we've been around for a long time. We know our stuff.
Todd, how would you respond to some of those questions around safety versus risk? And I don't know, like you're nodding your head, but have people said to you, like, my kids don't want a play structure, like they get bored, they'd rather go in the trees and play with rocks and sticks. Just what do you say to that?
I think it's the classic parental challenge of you buy a really expensive toy and the kid plays with the box that it came in, and I think that's not foreign to this kind of situation as well. Like I think kids' attention spans are small, so that the opportunities to have a variety of different things for them to be able to both challenge themselves as well as be safe. I think kids are all different, and so the variety I think is really important as we go through. And I think that the conversations then with parents as they wrestle with those challenges around, is this safe? Is this not safe? Who's comfortable with which things? And what kids are going to get challenged to do things that may be outside of their comfort zone as well. I don't think it's anything to get away from, but similar. I grew up from the same era. Not really a concern from a risk standpoint. I think the products that Blue Imp and other manufacturers based in Saskatchewan provide all follow those Canadian safety standards and are safe from a core principle.
Jamie, whenever we are in different communities or even different neighborhoods, we like to check out playgrounds. My kids are 8 and 6, and no matter where we are, playgrounds are, it's just so fascinating to see what different playgrounds are like. Do you pay attention to other places? Are you drawn to play structures? Are you like, I remember this one and it was so cool? Like in Vancouver, they have a brand new one in downtown Vancouver. We were there, this is a while ago now, but like the trampolines that are right in the ground. I thought that was so cool. And there was a coffee shop nearby. I liked that. But do you find yourself checking out playgrounds?
Absolutely. I think it was Albert Einstein who said, play is the highest form of research. And so I myself, I have 3 children, 17, 14, and 3.5. So we play. We go everywhere. That's what we do. It's a field trip because the more knowledge I have, and to have that kind of range of ages for myself, my older ones, my oldest is in university, so he's not so much playing on the playground now, but, our middle son, he he likes to do those challenging things. Our daughter, she wants to try. She wants to get in there. And the best way for me to know and learn is to go and play. So we go, it doesn't matter where we are. We're on a road trip, we stop. We go to different parks throughout Moose Jaw daily, almost, weekly. We're constantly playing.
Mm-hmm. And is there a favorite? Like, I know my kids love anytime there's a zip line.
Yes.
What would you say are what are the popular things?
Definitely zip lines. We installed a phenomenal 60-foot zip line this year at Palliser Regional Park out at Lake Diefenbaker. And the feedback that we've had, there's lineups constantly there. So that's always a big thing. Our daughter, she calls it the Rainbow Park here in Moose Jaw. It's just one where she can use all of the components. She can get up and down and slide and swing and spin and dig and have that imaginative play and try to sell mama an ice cream cone.
Todd, do you have a favorite playground or something that stood out to you in your journey across the province or on any trips that you've taken?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually gone in and played because, again, my kids are out of that time frame. But similar to what Jamie was mentioning, any time that there was trips, we used to live in the Northwest Territories, and that drive got broken up by, I could tell you where every playground is between Yellowknife and Edmonton. And
I love that.
And definitely we stopped at all of them more than once. And I would say the one that jumps out the most, there's one in a school grounds in High Level, Alberta, that was my kid's favorite one.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, there's still time for people to call and tell us about your favorite playground. People are emailing today, but call us, 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. That's what Tom did. Tom writes, many of these points have been raised, but the funding model is absolutely ridiculous. Perhaps the schools shouldn't be responsible for the funding if they don't operate all year round, but then they should be the responsibility of the parks. The idea that parent council should be responsible is laughable. I'm a new resident of Saskatoon, and I have a child at École Victoria, which is an otherwise beautiful school in the heart of Saskatoon. The playground is ancient, broken, and looks to be 50 years old. There's no swing set even. Playgrounds are essential for bringing members of the community together. They help parents to get to know one another. Otherwise, the schoolyard is barely used outside of the school day. The funding model needs to be changed. This seems to be getting more and more embarrassing every day. And if Saskatoon and other cities want to be taken as serious cities and places that are attractive to live in the country, this is a common sense, relatively simple solution. Please continue to advocate for this issue. There's nothing more sad than kids not having adequate places to play outside. Jamie, I just want to ask you a question related to that. Do you have any familiarity with other provinces? I was doing some quick Googling to see if other provinces fund playground equipment at their schools. Do you know what the model is in other places?
I don't know a whole lot about other provinces and their funding models. Blue Imp does have representation across the country. I do believe Alberta, and I could be wrong, so please don't mark my words on that, but I do believe Alberta has some funding. But I do know here in Saskatchewan, it's all up to the parents and the school groups and councils to raise those funds.
Okay. Well, I want to share with folks a really lovely story because as you're listening, you might be thinking about that great playground and sometimes those are taken for granted. But for decades, that was not the case in the hamlet of Weldon. It's only been the last year that the children there have had a playground, and that is in big part because of a $100,000 donation from the James Smith Cree Nation. Chelsea Erickson is the Weldon Playground Project Coordinator. Our producer, Nicole Huck, caught up with her yesterday.
So Weldon is a community of about 150 to 200 people, and they hadn't had a playground in over 32 years. And with the population of kids growing and whatnot, we decided last year that we were going to fundraise to try and bring a playground to the community. We had our first meeting in February of 2024 and planned our first fundraiser for April of 2024, and we ended up getting a donation from James Smith Cree Nation, and what we thought was going to take us 10 years to build a playground. We built it within 6 months.
Why did James Smith Cree Nation donate to the community of Weldon?
So, in 2022, we lost a community member to the mass stabbings on James Smith in Weldon, and we built the playground in his memory. We invited James Smith to the pancake breakfast. We didn't have any idea that they were coming with a donation, and they came and they gave us this donation, and if it wasn't for them, we'd still be fundraising.
Wow. Tell me about the person that the park is named after.
Wes Peterson. He was a big community person, very involved and in the community and surrounding areas. And yeah, he was just a great guy, and so we built it in his memory.
So when was the grand opening?
September 21st of 2024.
So it's coming up a year now that you've had this playground. What difference has it made in the community?
A huge difference. It's full every day with kids. We built it right next to the Weldon Care Home. So when the kids are there, the seniors out there watching them, like there's not a day that there isn't kids playing on it.
Just how much work goes into making a playground for a community?
There's quite a bit of work, but it's pretty simple actually. Like you have to, first of all, like we created a board and we looked at hundreds of playground options and whatnot, and we asked the kids in the community what they wanted and stuff, and we kind of picked our playground, and then it was just planning fundraisers and whatnot, and hoping people would come out, and the support that we had was amazing. So
Chelsea, you can hear that emotion in your voice. What's this been like for you?
Overwhelming. It's been overwhelming. I don't know. I grew up in Weldon, so you go from not having a playground for 32 years, and then my kids I had kids and stuff, and I was like, you don't expect to have another playground in the community, but us parents and grandparents and stuff rallied together. It just worked really hard, and now my kids can enjoy this.
Chelsea Erickson from Weldon speaking to Blue Sky producer Nicole Huck. The power of a playground. Hey, Jamie. And I mean, Chelsea thought it was going to take a decade and it would have if they wouldn't have received that big donation. I mean, what's your reaction to that story?
That's actually a very personal project for us because we worked on that project with Chelsea. So,
oh, you did, hey?
We did, yes. So we were very grateful that they chose to work with, myself, my husband, Blue Imp. And so I remember from the first time that I spoke with her to them being absolutely blown away with the support that they had. And what they thought was going to take 10 years took less than 6 months. And it's possible. So that was a really amazing project to definitely be a part of.
Todd, you're smiling at that story.
Yeah, that's that. Especially, we talk about recreation and parks having healing powers that exist, and definitely within that community, it makes my heart feel good to see that recreation and parks is having a role to play in what's going on as far as the resilience and future of that community.
Yeah, so nice to hear from Chelsea. If you have a story to share about the meaning of a playground in your community or at your school, send us a note, bluesky@cbc.ca. You could call if you're quick, 1-800-716-2221. Actually, we've got time, 1-800-716-2221. Mitch sent us an email. Mitch writes, I'm a parent on the school council with Buena Vista School. We're in the third phase of fundraising for upgrading the playground and structures at the school. Buena Vista is a nature-based learning school school, so that is the focus of our playground committee. Our next structure we're raising funds for is an outdoor covered classroom, which is not covered by the grant, but is the greatest need for the school. As a parent and contractor navigating the system, it can be quite challenging for parent councils. Our project was completed last year. The project that was completed last year was a set of swings and a log pile. We developed a set of plans that are CSA approved and stamped by an engineer, and with limited funds, we were able to put that plan into action. As a contractor and business owner, I see a need for another option. We're working on launching a few playground designs with a more nature-based log and timber-style playscapes. We have also made a few sets of benches for various schools. Mitch, thanks for emailing. You can too, bluesky@cbc.ca. I think maybe we should leave people with just a bit more useful information, because I'm sure people are like, we need to get in on this. This is an opportunity. So Todd, do you want to just share some final words of advice for anybody who's thinking, I want to get that grant?
Yeah, I would say everything is accessible on our website, so you can just click onto spra.sk.ca, and all the information that you need is readily available within there. If anyone's having any difficulties as well, we've got a couple of folks within our funding team that are available to assist via phone or email as well. Email addresses are on the website, and our main phone line is listed on there as well. I can give you that right now. It's 306-780-9231.
Okay.
But definitely, if anyone's having any challenges or difficulties with the process itself, we've got folks ready to help.
Okay, and people can email us if you didn't get down that number quick enough, bluesky@cbc.ca. Jamie, for any parents or community members just feeling overwhelmed by this whole process, what words would you leave them with?
Think about, Chelsea said it best. Think, talk to the kids. Think what they're the ones that ultimately are using it. So, take their consideration, their ideas into consideration. Obviously, there's a large community that you're going to encompass as well, but talk to the kids, get their thought on things. And then talk to get in conversation with a playground manufacturer, a designer, such as myself. There's plenty across the province and, across kind of the Western provinces that can help as well. But get in touch. This is what we're here for. I have the best job in the world. It's not going to work every day. I get to be a kid every day and design playgrounds. So,
how great is that?
It's the best ever.
And do you test them out? Like, do you get up on those structures? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a great show. I know it's top of mind for so many different school groups and communities. So it was great to be able to talk about this for the last 45 minutes or so. So Todd, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And Jamie, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll share one last email. So Taryn writes, the other weekend with my wife out of town, my kids and I decided to embark on an exciting adventure. See how many Regina playgrounds we could visit in an afternoon. They were so excited, they implemented a scoring matrix, and after 3 fun-filled hours, we had made it to 11. Although Pirate Playground was a big hit, I need to get to this Pirate Playground I keep hearing about. It was Horizon Station Park with its 2 zip lines that got a perfect score of 10 out of 10. Okay, I got to go to that one now. We, of course, ended our day at Regina's ultimate playground, Candy Cane Park. Oh, yeah, that is such a good one. Playgrounds are such a treat to have in our communities and such a fun, easy way to get active and make memories. Taryn, thanks for sharing that. If you didn't get a chance to email, you still can. We always read them. bluesky@cbc.ca.